Fireline was founded in 1947. We just celebrated our 70th anniversary. We were primarily a fire extinguisher company, and then we kind of moved into the clean agent world, the halons of the systems back in the 70s and 80s, and then really started branching into fire alarm, sprinkler, to the point where we became, one-stop shop kind of fire protection. If it puts out a fire or tells you about a fire, we were going to service it or install it. And so we kind of have built our business around that and are growing our business organically around that. When I took over the business, I was third generation. My grandfather had run it, my father had run it for many years, and both of them within a year of each other died rather unexpectedly. And so I took over when my father passed away. I was 27. I had been working the business off and on for about 8 years. I knew enough to fumble my way through, but absolutely was not prepared to be running a company at that time. And so within a month of his passing, I had 3 of my, actually they're ESD partners, so they are Notifier distributors, fly in and meet with me for the better part of a week. And we kind of holed up in a room, and I asked them every question I could possibly think about. I truly could not run this company had it not been for them. Not just at that time, but consistently over the next 7 years after that. We all have service customers who have locations that are outside of our actual normal geography, and we can't always meet those needs. And so we often have to use partners that we've met and peers and people that I've met within this industry and within this conference really to be able to execute those jobs. So for example, we had a job that was pretty much covering the entire state of Pennsylvania. And that would be a lot of time that my technicians would be having to spend going out and driving and servicing these jobs. So I reached out to Keystone Fire out in Philadelphia, and I reached out to firefighter sales out in Pittsburgh and said, can we do this project together and handle the service customer together? And Philly, you take the east, and I'll take the central, and then firefighter, you take the west. And we were able to execute, and we've been servicing that customer for years with using them as a resource for us on that project. It's the currency of favors, right? I give you a favor, you give me a favor. That's how we meet the needs of business. It really helps mostly when you're in a crisis or in a time crunch. We had a job where we needed to do some final checkout work, and we needed a piece of equipment that we just did not have. It was for a specialty job that we don't normally do. And I called a partner of mine up in Boston, and he shipped down the equipment for us to borrow for a couple of weeks so we could finalize that job. We would never have been able to execute that without having his kind of help. Ultimately, what we're gaining is efficient labor resource that we never would have had on our own. We are all struggling to find technicians and find people to do jobs and execute work. But if I need help on a project that's outside of my scope, I'm not going to go hire people outside of my territory and that are going to be not as easy to manage, and they're going to have resources put in those places. It's a lot easier to just call my partners and say, hey, do you have a guy? Can you send him to this job instead? That's incredibly cost efficient. It's much more low risk, and it reduces liability, and it still allows you to meet the needs of what the customer has. And ultimately we get the project done a lot faster and easier when we use our partners as opposed to having to do it ourselves. I don't think anybody can run a business properly without having peers in this industry, in any industry really. I use them for not just for projects, not just for service customers, not just for finding parts, but I use them for shared business practices. What are you guys doing to dispatch your technicians? How are you tracking time? How are you finding technicians? How are you hiring? What do you pay recruiters? All those kind of questions, I can't know all the answers myself, or at least I might know what I know, but I want to know what somebody else knows, and it could help benefit my business exponentially. I've called a couple people from the Notifier group and said, we're thinking about getting into a new product line. I know you guys do that. What are your thoughts? What are the pros and cons? What are the margins that you tend to see? So I can make better business decisions for the strategy for my business moving forward. If you're not leveraging this network, you're wasting a really good resource. They have been just vital in the success of my company because I know I can lean on them and I trust them to help me with my business.